Hello, I'm the Watch Monster, and in this video we're going to look at a watch by Orient from their Revival series of watches, where they have reissued watches based on designs from the past. And this one is called the World Map, or Worldtimer if you prefer. And there's a few variations of this watch, and the one I have is this blue dial piece here. Now, Orient is a company which I think is very underrated by watch collectors. Most people do know about their Bambino watch. That's a watch I also own, which is a nice dress watch. But I actually am a big fan of some of Orient's more quirky designs, and this one being the case here. And considering Orient are a company that make their own movements, I just don't think they always get the love that they deserve. And I appreciate designs like this are not everyone's cup of tea, but really you do get very high quality watches for the money you pay. For example, this watch here, I only paid about £150 for this, brand new, and I really do enjoy wearing this watch. Now, I'm wearing gloves for this one because the one thing with this watch is it is a bit of a fingerprint magnet. It is quite highly polished, but I'm sure you prefer not to see my grubby fingers anyway. Right, so let's have a look at this dial here. Now, there is a really nice blue reflection going on with this dial. It really does play nicely in the light. This is one of those watches I keep finding myself glancing down at because it really is very pleasing on the eye, the way this blue reflects off this dial. Now, it doesn't really show very well on the camera because obviously you're watching through a 2D display, but in real life there is a sort of 3D effect with this dial reflection. The blue seems to sink down into the watch. It's almost like you could reach behind the watch and touch that blue light. It really is a dial I find myself staring at quite a lot. Now, the reason this watch is called the World Map and is a Worldtimer is because around the outside of the dial is actually a map of the Earth. Now, it's not immediately apparent. I mean, sometimes I do get confused by it myself. Basically, you have to imagine that the hands here are at the South Pole. You're looking at the Earth from underneath. And basically here you've got South America and then North America. The top of the watch at the 12 o'clock position is Japan. So Orient have put themselves at the top and they made the watch, so they have every right to do that. And then we've got Asia across here, and under where the minute hand is at the moment, we've got Europe at the top, and underneath is Africa. So yeah, it's not the most useful because on other Worldtimers you'll actually have the names of cities around the world, whereas here you actually have a map, which I do like aesthetically because I'm not going to be using this as a Worldtimer. I just like the looks of it, and I think it's a very unique dial display. I really do like it. So the movement in this watch is an automatic watch. It's a caliber F6922, one of Orient's in-house movements. The crowns on the side here are signed with a small logo, and this crown at the 3 o'clock position operates the movement. I'm not going to go through it because it's pretty much the same. Now, this crown at the 4 o'clock position, that's what rotates this inner bezel here, and that allows you to use the world time function. And if you did want to use the world time function, then how to use that is pay attention to what the local time is on your watch. So here it's just coming up to 9 o'clock. Now I'm recording this in the evening, so on a 24-hour clock, we're coming up to 2100. So what you do then is find where you live on the world map. So I am here in the UK, and I'll put 2100 over the UK. And then, for example, if I wanted to know what the time is in Japan, which we know is at the top here, then it's just coming up to 6 in the morning, 0600. So that's basically how the Worldtimer function uses, but really it's not something I use. I just like the overall aesthetic and quirkiness of the way this watch looks. Also on the dial here, we do have applied little pips at the hour positions, and the Orient logo as well is applied with some printed text. Automatic and water resist 20 bar. So yeah, this does claim to be water resistant to 200 meters, which is what you'd expect from a dive watch, and this isn't a diver's watch, but I assume this case is what they do use in some dive watches as well. So hence you get that extra water resistance. So around the edge here, we do have this sort of coin edge bezel slanted in, and I do like the way that looks. Again, it also helps play with the light, and around the case it's all very highly polished indeed. Case back, again, nicely polished. You see how well that's reflecting there. You can see the glove and the bracelet reflecting. Just an Orient logo, nice and simple on the back. And the bracelet actually surprised me because I thought this was going to feel very cheap. Basically, on my experience with some other watches I've had by Orient and other watches by Seiko in this price range, you tend to get a very rattly, cheap feeling bracelet. But this one actually feels quite nice. And each link, they are solid links, and running your fingers down there, it feels like each one has been nicely finished individually. There's a nice curve to the edges. You know, you won't run your finger down here and find any sharp edges like you do on some watches. The clasp has an Orient logo on the back and feels very secure as well. So dimensions of this watch, it is quite a large watch. Case diameter is about 43.5 millimeters, so it does wear rather large on the wrist. I do have an 8.5 inch wrist, so I'm quite comfortable wearing this. Unfortunately, on a smaller wrist, it could find it does look a bit too big. Other things to mention, the crystal, you do not get a sapphire crystal in this, it's a mineral crystal, which I'm happy with. It's not a deal breaker for me, and considering I only paid £150, I do expect corners to be cut in places. So there we go, there's the watch on my wrist, and I think it's an absolute beauty. And I know some of you may disagree. Some of these quirkier designs by Orient, they're what we might call Marmite watches. You either love them or hate them, but I like Marmite and I like Orient. Okay. There is a little bit of loom, but nothing much to write home about, so I'll quickly cut to a loom shot so you can see that. Okay, so there we go. That's the Orient Revival World Map, a reproduction of a design that Orient originally released in 1969, and I think it still looks great today. Now, a lot of you may disagree, you may think this watch is ugly, then fair enough, but for me, I really do enjoy this watch. I love the quirkiness of it, and I think it just looks very smart indeed. So anyway, let me know in the comments what you think about this, what you think of Orient watches, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.